Welcome to another episode of YouTube where we have a little bit of a deer surplus going on here. That means we're feeding a little bit of extra food out to the pack. The temperatures are still extremely warm in the 50s and 60s, which is hot for wolves that have a winter coat. And here in the retirement, you see some deer scraps. This is Shadow. We're having a little bit of a issue with Shadow again with the standard meat. He's really timid eating because Malik is showing some dominance towards him. So we tried to spread out some scraps and give them a little bit of space between each other. He still is supplementally fed every day an option of chicken or beef or whatever he chooses to eat. But we're trying to get him back to carcass feeding and trying to eat some deer carcass. You can see here he's taking a piece of meat and he's walking with it. He's actually going to go cache it. He's not ravenously eating, probably because we're feeding him every day, but we're trying to get him to engage in a little competition and gain some confidence. The excess meat obviously encourages caching, and there's Malik doing a little bit of a attempt at caching, but this pile of scraps eventually all gets picked up and moved and cached by various places. So here's Malik picking up a piece, and as Malik walks by, you can see again his abscess tooth is healed up. There's a little bit of a mark on it today, though, that I'm kind of watching to see if that materializes in anything. Here's Shadow with a piece of meat, and somebody comes out from the wolf lab and gets a little bit stimulated to run over there with the meat and see what's going on. But that surplus is because of deer season. Minnesota deer hunters who are successful have been bringing their scraps when they're done cleaning their deer and getting the good meat off. The remaining scraps and rib cages come to us. And we also want to thank the Wildlife Science Center down in Forest Lake. They've generously donated about 25 of their excess roadkill. We had students drive down and arranged to pick up some of the deer, and we also had two of the Working for Wolves participants bring some deer up. So we have a good supply of deer for the winter, and that's good. We actually took a weight on Shadow today, and he's up to 89 pounds, so we're happy with that, considering his lowest weight was right after retirement when he was down to 71 pounds. So we're happy to hear, and a good weight on him, the solid weight this morning at 89 pounds, and that's a good weight for him to come into the winter. And as I say, you can see caching behavior is very typical when there's a surplus, and that's what Shadow's going to do here. It took about an hour, but pretty much that pile of scraps was gone within about an hour. We did still have a rib cage there, and one thing that's interesting, again, Shadow's lost some confidence, and it's probably likely to the fact that Malik claimed that pen because he was in it first, and even though there's not a lot of dominance going on, we did see from last week's video that Malik is asserting some dominance over Shadow, and especially around food. So we've been trying to encourage, when Shadow's eating alone with the wolf care staff feeding him, encourage Shadow to gain some confidence. We're blocking Malik and trying to keep Malik from feeding when Shadow feeds, and hopefully that's giving him some more confidence, but we're still a little concerned about it. This is a psychological battle that we have with Shadow. You know, a wolf has got its physical needs, but a majority of wolf care is about the psychological aspects, and for whatever reason, he's become very timid around large carcasses. And so you'll see Malik just as a lip curl there, and that's enough to back Shadow right off, and Shadow actually stopped interacting with the food after that lip curl. So it didn't take much at all. Shadow comes over to the camera, and that was enough intimidation, enough of a threat display from Malik there to keep Shadow away and come to the wolf care staff. So again, we always make sure both of our retired wolves are well fed, so there's not an issue where we're not going to see Shadow feeding. We will supplementally feed him for the rest of his life if he needs to, but you know, you certainly in a wolf care position want to make sure an animal is doing as best as they can, both psychologically as well as physically. And so we're trying to work him through that. And like I say, you can see that timidness there. Malik's giving him a little direct eye contact, and while he didn't give him another threat display, it was enough to make Shadow a little timid. And he reaches forward to try to get to the carcass, but he's not aggressive about it, and he gives up very easy. So that's something that we're trying to work on. You know, it's hard to make a wolf feel more confident, and certainly we want to make sure that, you know, the rank order is going to be what it's going to be based on their own interactions, but I don't want to, you know, have Shadow at a disadvantage because of some other psychological aspect that we're trying to deal with. So the best thing we can do is, again, try several different opportunities for large carcass feeding, see if we can get him to eat. And actually, this is encouraging that he's actually eating and not caching it. Of course, there goes Malik with another pile of scraps going to the bury it somewhere. But you can still see that timidness, and that's, like I say, that's not shadow by any means. That's not a typical shadow behavior when he was pack leader for 10 years, or 8 years actually. He became a pack leader when he was 2. But it's something that we're observing, and we are certainly trying to work with him. But that's basically what goes on when you have surplus deer. Lots of carrying, lots of caching, lots of interaction from the standpoint, and there's probably a protectionism. If this wasn't cached, they'd have 20 or 30 ravens in there trying to feed on it. So again, you see Shadow circling around a little bit, still a little timid, trying to approach, but not feeling confident enough to approach and engage in feeding behavior. And again, these are carcass feeding animals. That's how they evolved. And so when there's issues in dominance, lower ranking wolves don't get to feed. And so we are seeing some of this as being just a rank order issue and something that, they'll have to settle out. And speaking of psychological, we're back in the main enclosure. After last week's scuffle between Denali and Grizzer, Grizzer's healing up quite well. You'll see a little bit of a clip later on with his head. His healing is under his armpit is healed completely, although there's a little matted hair there that he does not allow us to cut out. We tried a scissors today to trim off some of the scar tissue and hair on the top of his head, and he did allow that, but he doesn't want to have that kind of interaction under his arm. Aiden, as we said, this little tension that's going on in the main pack does not impact Aiden, and it's given Aiden a little bit of a respite from being the focus of dominance. Allows him to groom himself to lay alert in the front of the exhibit. But he's always mindful of where Maya is. But it's a good sign that he's, again, showing some very calm, relaxed behavior. And right down in the front, this is right in front of the viewing windows. Grooming is a common behavior. He's actually cleaning off some little burrs or stickers that were stuck to his leg there. A little bit of what we call flea biting. These guys don't have fleas, but they do have little pieces of debris from the vegetation when they're traveling through the woods that it's stuck on their coat. So that's a grooming behavior. And we've also been noticing Maya grooming Grizzer's wounds quite a bit. And that's, again, a common social behavior. So the reality of Denali and Grizzer's tension, as I said, was making Aiden's life a little bit calmer. So he's not having really too much issues. Now, this warm weather has been a little bit of an issue. 60 degrees doesn't seem warm to a human. But when it's November and wolves have a full winter coat, it definitely makes them pant. And panting is a way that they evaporate heat off of their tongue, tries to cool themselves off on these pretty warm days. And Maya and Grizzer have been associating with each other pretty closely. You see Grizzer on the main rock and Maya on the greeting rock. Now, Denali's tension's not over. Denali is continuing to show some, not so much testing behavior, but what he's gone is the opposite direction and like fear behavior. And fear is a weakness. Maya and Grizzer are very well aware of the response of fear response from the lower ranking wolves and see that as a target. You see Denali try to do a follow, tries to interact, wants to socially engage, but Grizzer's not ready to accept Denali because Denali's not really willingly showing some submission. And so you'll see what turns into a little bit of a following behavior from Denali encourages Grizzer to be a little bit more proactive in dominance. Maya then reverts. You hear Aiden in the background to chasing Aiden, and then Denali's going to get a chase response from Grizzer. And this goes on usually in the mornings during wolf care. Again, wolf care tends to stimulate activity, gets the dominant ones feeling very confident because they get to be greeted first, and it makes, again, for an interesting interaction. You can see Denali's response, where it was testing a week ago, is now a real fear-based response, tuck tail, snapping, and that's a weakness, and Grizzer sees that as a weakness, and he's going to try to target Denali. What Denali's got to do psychologically is he has to be able to accept his position as subordinate, and he has to start showing some subordinate response. Showing a dropped ear position, dropped tail position, dropped body position when he approaches. We didn't see that. When he started approaching Grizzer, first of all, he was following, which is a kind of a little testing behavior, and then he was higher T1 tail, wagging arousal. And Grizzer does not see that as showing subordinate behavior. And so that's where Denali is going to continue to be the focus of this. And as you can see, Maya's right in there as the focus. She's not chasing him as much. And you can see Denali runs right into her. No problems with her, with Maya at all. It's Grizzer that he's intimidated by. So this may go on for 10 or 15 minutes. It depends upon the situation. Definitely is getting Grizzer more agile. He's maneuvering around the rocks pretty good for a 122-pounder, and is probably encouraging his physical condition to improve a bit. But we want to make sure Denali's relaxed. And again, it's Denali's choice to behave appropriately. When it's done, they're in close proximity. But again, Denali's just not showing a subordinate response. He's going from testing to fear, and that's really not going to win any points with Grizzer. So that's what's going on in Wolf Care, and we'd like to thank and acknowledge this week we had some donations. We had some pig's ears come in, and there was no name on the box, so we'd like to thank whoever sent the pig's ears. We also received some hand warmers, so Wolf Care is very appreciative of that. Hand warmers are used on a regular basis for long extended work when you're working around Chilling Fence, but also when we're out in the field doing programming, snowshoeing, winter type activities. We're very thankful for that. So thanks for watching, and appreciate all your comments and concerns and donations.